Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. So today we're going to be playing with our Wow Fab foils, and we're also going to make a shaker card as well. And I really want to show you how you can get a foiled look using your stamps. No need for a foiling machine or heat for this technique. We're going to be using some Tacky when dry gel medium. I've got a Gina stencil there, Butterfly Garden, the Spellbinders stylish ovals, and then I've got the lovely flowers stamp set which we're going to be using for our stamped image today from Gina Designs. So first of all, I'm going to do some stenciling. So this Butterfly Garden stencil from Gina Designs has a repeating pattern, so you'll see the stencil doesn't quite cover the full card front, but that's okay because we're able to shift it down. And I'm just going to add some stencil detail using some white pigment ink. This is the Pretty Colour Inside Cotton White Pigment ink from Stamps by Me. There's lots of different pigment inks on the market, so use whatever you've already got in your stash. I'm using a small blending brush from Funky Fossil Designs to apply the ink, and then I'm able just to shift the stencil down. You might find this with a lot of your stencils that may be a bit smaller than the card panel you want to work on. If the design repeats, you can simply just shift it down and then continue the ink blending. So I'm able to do that with that stencil. Now I've got a little bit of seepage in the middle, but that's fine. We're going to be covering that with the shaker element, but I'm going to pop that aside to dry. So I'm going to use the Spellbinders stylish ovals to create my shaker frame, and what I've already done is cut out 4 frames. I've got 3 that I've stacked together with glue, and then 1 is just a single frame. And I've also cut out a piece of vellum using the larger of the ovals that I used to create the frame. And this is going to create a shaker window without the need for using foam tape. So if you don't have any foam tape, or you always find it fiddly, especially when you're trying to create a shaped frame, then this is a great way of creating that shaker element without the need for foam tape. So what we're going to do is we're going to stamp the lovely flowers stamp from Gina Designs onto the vellum, and I'm going to use the Crafters Workshop Tacky when dry gel medium. I really love this. It's great for using with your stencils, but you can also use it with your stamps. So I've just got a piece of sponge, and I'm just using my palette knife there just to add the Tacky when dry gel medium to the sponge. We're basically turning this into a stamping pad or an ink pad, so you just want to make sure that it's nice and smooth and that there's no gloopy bits on the sponge. I'm then just applying it all over the stamp like you would with an ink pad, and then I'm going to go ahead and stamp it onto the vellum. Now you want to be quick because you don't want the gel medium to stick to the vellum and then end up getting stuck to it completely and making a bit of a mess. So you just want to make sure that you've got nice and even pressure, and then I am just going to flip it over, make sure that I've got all of that centre part, and then just peel the vellum off. If you're doing this on cardstock, then you will need to be a bit quicker than that because the card will tear quite easily if it's stuck too long. Now I've left this time lapse in because the vellum just flattened itself out in about a minute. By the time I'd gone and washed my stamp and come back, the vellum had completely flattened itself out. So don't be alarmed if your vellum curls up. You want to make sure the Tacky when dry gel medium has dried before you apply the foil, which mine has. You can tell when it's dry because it goes nice and clear and it loses that white creamy finish. And I'm using this Wow Fab Foil. This is a really bright pink, and I'm just going to make sure that I can apply it over the vellum nice and smooth. So cut your vellum to size, making sure that it will cover your panel that you're going to foil. And then I'm just going to use my mini die cutting machine just to apply pressure, but I will need to cut off the excess foil because it's not going to fit through at that width. This is the Platinum Scout mini die cutting machine, and I really love it. And so all I'm doing is just putting it between the plates as if you were cutting with a die, and then just running it through. I do decide just to add this shim just to get a little bit of extra pressure. So that's all you're using it for. You just want even pressure all over the foiled area, and that just makes sure that the foil's really got a good contact with the tacky glue that we've used. So now I'm just going to peel the foil off, and you can see we've got that lovely foiled image using that stamp. It looks so pretty, and I think it looks great on the vellum as well. So this is the negative that's left over, so keep that because there's lots of foil that we can use on there for another project. And then I'm going to start to stick it down to my frame to create my shaker window. So I'm just using the liquid glue from Belly Arts, and I'm just going to make sure that I've got that nice and even around my frame. I'm going to use my magnets on my glass mat just to hold that in place while it dries. And the pigment ink is still a bit wet, so I'm just using my heat tool on the lowest setting just to give that a quick dry. I'm also going to use a little bit of tissue paper just to blot off some of the excess where it seeped through. It's a little bit thicker, and then that way it just means that it will dry a little bit quicker. I'm then going to add the other frame to the inside of the vellum. So this is the dimensional frame that I created, and that's going to be our shaker window. So I'm just going to use my magnets again just to hold it down while the glue dries. And then once that's dry, we can start putting our card together. So the reason I'm using my magnets, by the way, is my mat is from Glassboard Studio, and it's a magnetic glass mat. So it's got a big panel of magnetic sheeting behind the glass. So that's how the magnets work. I think I've confused a few viewers. But yeah, that's why I'm using magnets. Of course, if you don't have magnets, you can just place something heavy over it until it dries. Not a problem. But yeah, I've got the magnets and I really enjoy using them. I've got a piece of holographic cardstock that I've matted there behind the stenciled layer. The pigment ink is still a little bit damp, so I'm a little bit impatient, and I've just dabbed it off again there with my rag. I'm now going to add the shaker elements. So these are the flat back sequins from A Colour for Life Designs, the card bling. I'm using opaque iridescent light purple and the whiteout mix. So these are all different sizes, but they're flat and they don't have holes in like traditional sequins, so they're great for shaker cards and embellishments. I find when creating shaker windows that you do need to make sure that you don't overfill them, and you also want to make sure that when you've popped the sequins down, they're not like in a big pile in the middle of your card. You do want to spread them out a little bit, just because they can get stuck and then they don't shake very well or they get trapped. So I've just used some liquid glue on my frame and popped that over it. Again, I'm going to use my magnets. If you don't like using glue, then you could use some very thin double-sided tape as well. For the sentiment, I've used the Thoughtful Flowers stamp set from Gina Designs. I've got the coordinating dies as well for this. And so I've used that lovely scripty thinking of you sentiment, and then the sub-sentiment, it says on your anniversary. I've popped some foam squares on the back of these, and I'm just going to pop those down. And then just to finish off the card, I'm going to add a few more of the flat back sequins from the whiteout mix, just to add to the front of that shaker card. And then that is the finished card for today. So thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope that you've enjoyed this tutorial. I've left the sound on so that you can hear it shake. And then that's the finished card for today. So as always, all the products that I've used will be linked in the description box below. Please don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you've enjoyed this tutorial. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more from me. And I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care.